time is it there?
It is just past 7 o'clock in the morning, so it's like actually perfect time. It's
Wow.
really yeah.
Wonderful. So you're like, early bird gets the worm right now.
So much. It's actually really fun because I get to watch Survivor, then I go to bed, and then I get to chat to the person the next morning. It's like
Like
ideal. It's
like
Survivor.
instantly.
Yeah, it's
That
Survivor
must feel like
geekdom.
a fever dream.
Yeah, it's like my whole life just becomes consumed by Survivor for 12 hours,
That's wild.
which is actually pretty cool. I really love it though. It's so cool to be able to do that. Whereabouts are you in the States? What time zone are you on?
I'm near Boston, so I'm in an area called Cape Cod right now, but I'm from Boston, Massachusetts.
Yeah, love that. And that kind of gets me into one of the questions because I have deep dived you the last 12 hours. I've stalked you effectively the last 12 hours to find out who you
Wonderful,
are.
wonderful.
And and one of the really interesting things I found out about you was that like you have a connection to Survivor that predates Survivor. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so are you talking about Boston Rob?
I'm talking about Boston Rob.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So when I was around 7, 8, 9, Boston Rob was on his first season. And that's when my family got into it. We never really watched the show before that. Not that there was a ton of Survivor to watch before that, but
Yeah.
basically we had a bartender who had to leave his shift, had to leave his job to go on some reality TV show. And that ended up being Boston Rob going on Survivor. So he actually has become a really close family friend. We love Amber. We get his Christmas cards. So he came on my podcast a couple years ago, and I was like, I would love to be on Survivor. I was like, I would love to be on Survivor. And he's like,
Yeah.
apply. And so I applied and I continued the Boston legacy the best I could out there on Survivor. But I love Rob. He's the best.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's so funny when you see those wrinkles in like the Survivorverse of people who have little connections. And for whatever it's worth, it's just a cool little thing for probably for them as well to know someone who's going to go and play this new version of Survivor. So that's super cool. And can I ask you a little bit? This is super off topic as well. I've just been reading about like the Survivor pop up as well. Can you talk a little bit about the pop up? Like, what's your involvement with that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Cool question. No one's really asked me about that today, but Survivor is all about kind of doing as much as they can for the fan base and doing things that haven't been done and creating experiences for the fan base as well. And so once I got back from filming the show, I got an email from someone in production was like, we want to do this thing called the Survivor Cafe. It's going to be an experiential opportunity for fans to come and meet past players, to meet current players, to play actual Survivor competitions and challenges. And they were like, we think your family's bar would be perfect for this. And so I connected him with my parents, and after a lot of conversation and checking out if the space would work, we ended up with a Fijian Survivor Disney World park on the third and fourth floor of my parents' bar. So it's been a really cool experience, and that's actually where the premiere for the season happened. And we've had Rob and Jeremy and Aubrey, and Jake and Justin, New England players, Natalie come by, Wendell, Bryce, bunch of people come by and watch episodes there and have some really fun events. So it's been a great way for my family to kind of get involved in everything, and it's been super fun. My dad in particular loved the whole thing.
Yeah, that's so cool. I'm so jealous. That actually sounds incredible. As I said before, I literally watch Survivor on my couch alone. So I'm very, very envious. That sounds like an incredible
Hey, we'll
situation.
fly out. It's the flight's not that bad.
No, it's not that bad. I do need to do that at some point. I want to jump over to the island. Obviously,
Yeah.
you I got to play. There's something that I love when I get chat to people who've been lifelong fans. It's my favorite. So you got to play Survivor. You got to go out there. And originally on Uli, like it seemed like you were in a fairly okay spot. Like, can you talk about those early days and how you with building relationships and how you felt?
Uli was the best. Uli was easy survivor living. I got there and basically Jawan told me he wanted to be in alliance with me. Savannah told me she wanted to be in alliance with me. Rizzo told me he wanted to be in alliance with me. Me and Sage were getting along really well. Nate wanted to work with me. So it was kind of like an abundance of opportunity. And I was sitting pretty over at Uli, it
Yeah.
was great. And we hadn't had to face any of the stressors of the game yet. And I feel like that created such a unique environment that's very rare in the game where there had been no blindsides or backstabbing, so it was very pure. And so the conversations went to such beautiful places. There was a lot of deep conversations of loved ones we were mourning and family members we were missing out there and challenges we have faced in our personal life. And, Jawan would always ask us what everyone's grateful for. And so it was a beautiful time in the Survivor games and a time in the game that I cherish a lot.
Yeah, I love that. And then Survivor, as it always does, it does its twists and it does its turns, and
Yeah.
fortunate luck turns into bad luck. And you did find yourself in a minority, the Kele tribe, when you were switched over with Sage. Can you talk about
Yes.
those initial reactions? Because I do actually really love your edit in the game, and I'm interested how you perceive that as well. Because not often do we have pre-merge players. I feel like get a fairly consecutive multiple episode arc of kind of their strengths, but also what is deemed by others as like the reason to take them out. So I'm really curious, like your vibes on moving over and how you felt like that was going in the bonding you were doing.
Yeah, so when that happened, I obviously recognized it wasn't as, Rizzo said, winning like the Survivor lottery, right? Like it wasn't
No.
the luckiest situation to happen, but I appreciated the challenge. And I remember sitting down with one of the producers and doing one of the interviews and saying, this could be my opportunity to prove that I'm a player. This could
Yeah.
be an opportunity that if I do make it to the final three, these can be the moments that show why I am a strong player. And so in that moment, I had to make a decision to how I was going to handle that situation. And I felt like I could either kind of act like I was on the bottom of Uli and kind of just trying to lay low and, just hope that maybe they see me as someone they can tag along, or I could give it everything I have and just turn up the strategic gameplay to 300, 400, 500. And, I was just reflecting on it one night, and that eventually led to the next morning when I had that conversation with Steven, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna give this all I got. And if they bite, if they're for it, awesome. If they don't, I'd rather go home giving it all I had versus just trying to blend in and maybe float my way further. But then go home not giving it everything I had. So it was my goal and my intention to play as hard as I could. And something I've talked a lot about today was
Yeah.
there was kind of this question of, is it sincere? Is what she's talking about sincere, or is it strategy? And what I recognized was that my strategy was to be sincere. I'm someone who loves people. I love talking to people. I love learning about people. I love being interested in what they're interested in. And one, that was a strategy for me to play in the game because I knew that if I could connect emotionally with people, that could provide me with options as I navigate throughout the game. But two, it also just made the game more fun to play. It made it more fun to be there, actually caring about people and actually caring about deep conversations. Because, obviously you guys don't get the whole scope of it, but like we're sitting around a lot,
Yeah.
and to me, I'm not someone who really likes to gossip about other people. I don't really like talking about drama. I don't really, and we've only, you can only hear people's favorite movies and snacks so many times. So I got to a point where I was like, what do you think happens when we die? Right? And like,
Yeah.
like what's your faith like and what's your family like? And so it was this combination of just how I enjoyed spending my time out there, but two, I felt like if I could connect with people deeply, there would be that deeper trust there. I just think for me, I was put in so many difficult situations and just my luck in the game that it just got a little bit more complicated and a little bit more obvious of kind of how strong I was playing the game as well, which is a natural threat going into merge.
I super appreciate you being so vulnerable and honest about your reflections. I agree. It's so interesting in terms of the micro edit we see of Survivor. Like it's a condensed little snippets of things in moments. It's not necessarily a reflection of every moment out there.
Right.
And I also think it's really interesting in terms of the way that you played. I'm a big believer that Survivor is really cast dependent, and sometimes you have casts
Mm.
that will be open to those kind of conversations and positive moments, and there are others who don't. And I do feel like one of the things we've noticed in the new era casting style, I actually think you're a more a traditional, like older school, pre-40 casting type, which actually doesn't necessarily align with some of the more like I don't know niche casting that we're seeing in this current like
Right.
iteration. So I think that makes it really challenging. And it is really challenging as well when you talk about like your concept of gratitude. And you've probably never listened to this podcast and don't, it's totally fine. You've never have. But at the end of every podcast, I actually will ask you about gratitude. And I think it's such an underrated value that we
Mm.
have. And so for you, when you're like, I guess it brings me to a broader discussion. I'm sure you've answered a thousand things, but I have been interested following along online, the online commentary around the concept of faith, the concept of gratitude, and how people have kind of weaponized that in a way. And I actually feel, and I just want to say, I actually feel like you've been attacked online
Mm.
by people because of those virtues that I personally deem as like positive virtues, but it does seem it has been weaponized against you. So can you talk a little bit about how you've processed that as the shows aired week to week, and I guess
Ah.
having feedback like that come at you?
Yeah, wow. Fantastic question. Like really next level and honestly has been the more for me important aspect of processing the game, right? Because it's easier to process a game and strategy. And I've talked to Sage and I've talked to Steven and I've talked to Jawan, and I'm in such great places with all of them that watching the game unfold, it doesn't bother me because the game's a game and moves are moves. But for me, a deeper element of this process, which I have to remember I signed up for. I didn't
Yeah.
just sign up to play Survivor. I didn't just sign up to be in competitions and make alliances and to be America's favorite player. Like, that's not why I signed up. I signed up for the intensity of the entire experience, which includes being perceived by millions of people, which includes being judged by strangers. And there's definitely a lot I can say about it just in regards to the state of our culture, the state of entertainment and what people find entertainment in and what people find joy in.
Yeah.
And it can be a little sad to recognize that people really enjoy disliking other people and they enjoy watching two people go at it. And so, this isn't my first time being misunderstood. And Jesus talks about it in the Bible, which I have right next to me here. Jesus talks about how you will be hated, you will be misunderstood for talking about me. And for me, I knew that going into this game, going into a culture and an environment that might not think the way that I think and believe in what I believe in, it could open me up to a lot of scrutiny. But what about the 1% or the 0.001% who sees me and resonates with how I handle a situation or how I handle being blindsided, and they do respect that. And then maybe they end up on my Instagram page and then they hear me talk about Jesus. And because of that, they have a spiritual growth in their life, or they are able to take in a powerful perspective for how they handle conflict in the future. I've only said good things about Sage and Steven and all of my cast because I only care to speak life onto them. I don't want to speak hate or negativity or toxicity onto my fellow castmates or my fellow humans. And, for me, when I got out of the game, one of the first things I said was I stayed true to myself and I'm proud of how I handled every single situation because I handled every single situation with positivity. I handled 99% of situations with as much kindness and love as possible. You never saw a confession of me talking badly about somebody. You never saw a confessional of me hating somebody. You never saw me annoyed. You never saw me tell somebody to shut up, or you never saw that from
Yeah.
me. And for me, if me representing love and faith and compassion and grace is going to be hated, I think that says more about where we're at as a culture than it does about me. And even though the majority of the internet might have negative things to say about me, they said a lot of negative things about Jesus as well. I'm not claiming to be Jesus, but sometimes when you represent a certain love and a certain light, I do believe that people don't really know what to do with that because it's not really seen in our day-to-day life very often as well. So it's easier to hate it and it's easier to shame it. And, we also have to remember who are the people that are saying negative things and where do they have to be in their life to say those things. So for me, it's been this process of just having compassion for online haters, compassion for my castmates and the stress that they endured in the game, and compassion for myself for going through all of this as well, because there's been certain elements that have been really, really hard.
I super appreciate the vulnerability in that, and I don't disagree. And it's so interesting you talk about the internet. I think it really is the corner of the internet. It's not reflective of broader views necessarily,
Right.
and sometimes that hate, and I put that in quotation marks, but it is like it's directed just hate. It can be amplified because it's a lot. It can be a lot to come at you in a moment, and whether that's 5 people, 10 people, 50 people, it's still just such a minority of the millions of people around the globe that watch Survivor. But
Right.
I can understand. I completely have sympathy and empathy for like that emotion coming at you as well. It's a lot to for anyone to process, and I
Yeah.
so thank you for being so open. I really value that. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you for asking. You're the only person I've kind of gone into that to that depth with, so I just appreciate you
Yeah.
recognizing that part of the journey. And I just want to say that I'm grateful for that part of the journey because it's great stuff to work with in terms of your own self-confidence and I believe I have a great purpose in my life beyond Survivor, and I believe I have important things to talk about. And so I do believe that God, on some level, is preparing me to speak truths that maybe some people aren't going to love. And I think that me just getting more comfortable with not everyone loving me is important for, for my personal journey, but for everybody's personal journey as well.
Yeah, I am conscious of the CBS gods and their their time restrictions as well. But I will just end as a guide end every podcast is the concept of gratitude and what you have taken away from this whole experience. What are you grateful for?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would talk much longer with you this because this is wonderful. So thank you for your time here. I'm very grateful for this conversation. And just in the essence of what I'm grateful for from this experience is I am a very different person and a very similar person as well, but I am a very different person from the version of me that is on the TV. And I think that's because an experience like this is going to force you to grow in so many ways. And so I'm just so grateful for how all of the difficult aspects of the game, from the stress of being in the game to the blind side to Sage's no hug to the online hate to being the person voted out before merge, all those really, really difficult things, really, really difficult in the vein of
Yeah,
living an incredibly privileged life, first off, right?
yeah,
I'm not dying of a terminal illness here. But those things were difficult in the context of my life in certain ways, and that difficulty has pushed me to find new levels of strength within myself, new levels of confidence within myself, new levels of faith within myself. And those are things that are worth more than $1 million or making the merge or winning an individual immunity idol. And I'm eternally grateful for the whole experience for giving me that.
yeah. Incredible and such a great takeaway to have from that.